doing chapter 21 here, lesson 16, intro to real estate appraisal. Question 2. Real property is said to be more subject to the effects of externalities than most assets. This vulnerability is principally due to, and the answer is 3, the immobility of land. Let me read it again. Real property is said to be more subject to the effects of externalities than most assets. This vulnerability is principally due to 3, the immobility of land. And then we go to question 8 on page 2. Which of the following might be the subject of a real estate appraisal? And the answer is 1, airspace rights. Airspace rights may be the subject of real property appraisal. Question 20, which of the following statements are true? And the answer is 4, C and D only. C, a licensed real estate representative can give an appraisal of real property. That's true. And the market value of real property, as determined by an experienced appraiser, may be greater than the ceiling price of the buyer. That's also true. So those C and D of number 4. 28. Sally, an appraiser, has been asked to provide an estimate of the market value of a farmhouse and the surrounding property. Which of the following would not affect her estimate of market value? And the answer for 28 is 2. Which is, the owner of the farmhouse is anxious to move and would like to sell as soon as possible. This would not affect her estimate. These other things would affect the estimate. Number 1, one of the pastures on the property has been leased for 2 years to the owner of a racehorse. And 3, the farmhouse and its surrounding property is located between the main road and the next door neighbor's property. Therefore, the neighbor gets the benefit of access to his house by means of a road that runs through the farmhouse property. And 4, Home Hold Finance Company recently loaned some money at a below market interest rate to the owner of the farmhouse and secured the debt with a mortgage on the farmhouse. This mortgage is assumable. So all those things do affect the estimate of the market value from the appraiser's point of view, but not the fact, number 2, that the owner of the farmhouse is anxious to move and wants to sell ASAP. So now we're going to question 33 on page 3. Which of the following statements are false? And the answer is 1, only statements B and C are false. B, an appraiser is only responsible to the person who pays the appraiser's fees. No, the appraiser is responsible to more people. And the other one is C, an appraisal mistake of $3,000 on a $276,000 house is beyond the margin of allowable error. So an appraisal mistake of $3,000 on a $276,000 house is beyond the margin of allowable error. That's false too. So what is true? A, form reports often meet the needs of financial institutions, insurance companies, and government agencies. And the other thing that is true is the burden of proof is on the appraiser to explain an apparent overvaluation of a property. So that's also true. But the things that I told you before are false. Those are the answers. Question 40. Which one of the following is not a method of appraisal? And the answer is 4, the depreciation method. As far as I know, there's no such thing as the depreciation method, but there are the other ones. Number 1, the residual method. Number 2, the cost method. And 3, the income method. Question 43. In the context of appraisal, which one of the following properties is most likely to possess latent value? And the answer is 2, a single family residence, which is the only house on the block not yet converted to the commercial use, which is permitted by zoning. So that place has latent value because the zoning has allowed commercial property everywhere in that neighborhood. Question 55, and we're moving on to page 4. Consider the following 4 properties. A pulp mill in Squamish. B, a small single-family house in the central business district of Vancouver, CBD. C, a multi-unit apartment complex in Burnaby. And D, a residential condominium in Victoria. Which appraisal method would be the most suitable to appraise each of these properties? On 55. And the answer is 4. So A, for the pulp mill in Squamish, we use the cost method. B, for a small single-family house in the Vancouver CBD, we use residual. C, for a multi-unit apartment complex in Burnaby, we use the income approach. And for D, a residential condo in Victoria, we use the market comparison approach. Question 77. When a bidder's ceiling price for a lot is $30,500 and the owner's floor price is $32,500, the answer is 2. A sale cannot take place. There you go. It's too hard. 89. Which one of the following statements is true? And the answer is 2. The complexity of real estate as a product requires the involvement of an expert appraiser. The complexity of real estate as a product requires the involvement of an expert appraiser. That is true. 101. Which of the following factors will affect the value of land? And the answer is 4. Both 1 and 3. 1, immobility, and 3, externalities. So those will affect the value of land, immobility and externalities. Then we move along to page 5, question number 128. Which of the following 4 statements, of the following 4 statements, which are true and which are false? Now we go answer 2. B and C are true. B, courts have recognized an acceptance range of error in the determination of market value by appraisers. That is true. Courts have indeed recognized an acceptable range of error in appraisers determining market value. Years. And C is true too. A licensed trading services rep can give an appraisal of real property. That is also true. Okay, yes. And we have A, that's false. Appraisers must be licensed in BC. That's not true. Absolutely not true. And D, the market value of real property as determined by an experienced appraiser will always be greater than the floor price of the owner. That is also false. 129. The principle on which the comparative method of appraisal is based is 2, substitution. The comparative method is based on substitution. 137. The subject of an appraiser is 4, the value of the legal rights of ownership vested in a particular piece of real estate. The subject of an appraiser is, number 4, the value of legal rights of ownership vested in a particular piece of real estate. Question 140. Which one of the following does not result from the immobility of land? And the answer is 1, the need for debt financing. All right, the need for debt financing has nothing to do with the immobility of the land. But these other things do relate to the immobility of land. For example, 2, a vulnerability to outside environmental factors. 3, an inability to move a listed property to a better resale market. And 4, the necessity for owners to travel in order to take advantage of services provided by different parcels of land. Those are all related to immobility of land, but not 1, the need for debt financing. Page 6, question 155. There are many reasons why a property might sell for a price which is different from its current appraised value. Which of the following could be a reason? And the answer is 3. The appraisal was done by the cost method. So a property might sell for a price different from its current appraised value. The reason being could be 3. The appraisal was done by the cost method. The cost method may make it things a little bit different from the sale price. 165. When a property possesses latent value, then, number 1, higher value may result through a change of use. Okay? So 165, if you have a property, it has latent value. If you change its use to something better, it might give a higher value. 174. For which of the following properties would an appraiser be most justified in employing the cost method to determine market value? All right, so you want to use the cost method. The best one would be number 2, a newly constructed church of contemporary design. A newly constructed church of contemporary design that would be most justified in employing the cost method. 196. A potential buyer is aware of the asking price for a particular house listed for sale. Which of the following statements is normally true? Number 4, all of the above 3 statements are normally true. So this is if a potential buyer is aware of the asking price for a particular house listed for sale. These 3 things are true. 1, the probable sale price will be equal to or above the floor price. 2, the probable sale price will be equal to or above the seller's value to owner. And 3, the ceiling price will be equal to or below the asking price. Those things are all true. And then we go to page 7, question 202. Are 2 identical houses located next to one another in the same neighborhood sell within 1 week of each other? Ms. Brown sells hers for $112,000, while Mr. Fisher is only able to sell his for $100,000. Which of the following could account for the difference in selling price? And the answer is 1. The listing brokerage representing Ms. Brown spent an extraordinary amount of money on advertising her property. Oh, okay. So it could be the advertising costs that make the big difference. 235. Oh, shit. Just give me 1 second here. So we got question 235. Woo-wee. Question 235. And the question here is, which of the following factors is most likely to affect the value of residential real property, residential real property in the short run? Okay, so we want to know what will affect things in the short run. Well. And 235, the answer is, the answer is, sorry I'm being so slow here. I'm just trying to find 235 because I just need to make a big change here. Yeah. So the answer here for 235 is answer 2, which is a change in mortgage interest rates. So mortgage interest rates, that could affect the value of a residential real property in the short run. And that's most likely to affect the value of residential real property in the short run. That is the change in mortgage interest rates. Okay? You got that? Then please obey. Okay? If you got that, then please heed my call. Yes, and now we go to 255. Under which one of the following conditions is the comparative method of appraisal most applicable? And the answer is 2. Where buyers and sellers are well informed about current sales transactions. That's where the comparative method of appraisal is most applicable. All right, where buyers and sellers are well informed about current sales transactions. 298, which one of the following does not form part of the definition of market value? It's not a part of the definition. And the answer for 298 is 2. Value is based on the personal opinion of the value of the owner. Value to the owner. That is not part of the definition of market value. Personal opinion? No. But these other things are. Number 1, value is a price that is reasonably expected to prevail. 3, value is determined at a particular point in time. And 4, the buyer and seller must be bargaining at arm's length. Question 324. Why is the submarket for single-family residences considered to be more perfect than other real estate submarkets? And the answer for 324 is 3. There is a more abundant flow of market information relating to current prices. So that's why the submarket for single-family residences is considered to be more perfect than other real estate submarkets, because number 3, there is a more abundant flow of market info relating to current prices. And then we got 333. A real estate appraiser would not value, and the answer is 3, the legal interest in cattle on agricultural land. No, that is not their role. But these other things can be appraised. 1, an existing rental agreement of a warehouse. 2, the right to use airspace at the top of a high-rise office building, for example, for a helicopter pad or whatever. And for a fee simple interest in a 2-bedroom apartment. Those things can be valued, but not legal interest in cattle. 353. In conducting an appraisal, a background analysis is undertaken covering a range of market factors. Which of the following is a reason for including a background analysis in an appraisal report? And the answer for 353 is 4. All of the above are reasons for including a background analysis in an appraisal report. 1, to indicate the current status of the subject property in relation to trends in property values. 2, to confirm that comparable properties have been selected from the same market as the subject property and are, hence, subject to the same market forces. And 3, to provide the client with an appreciation of the socio-economic determinants of supply and demand. All right, 359. With respect to the valuation of real property, value to the owner is most often required to be estimated in the context of 349. 2. Investment analysis. With respect to the valuation of real property, value to the owner is most often required to be estimated in the context of number 2, investment analysis. Investment analysis. Investment analysis. Investment analysis. 399. The income approach is generally not used for the valuation of number 2, single-family residences. So we don't really often use the income approach for valuing single-family residences. No. But we do use it for warehouses and leasehold interests. Page 9, question 413. Before valuing a house, an appraiser should assume that, number 1, the registered owner is not the ultimate source of data on the property. So before valuing a house, an appraiser should assume that, number 1, the registered owner is not the ultimate source of data on the property. 449, the cost method of appraisal may not be used to value 2, vacant lots. The cost method of appraisal may not be used to value vacant lots. No, to vacant lots for cost method. But we can use the cost method for airport hangars, condominiums, and single-family residences. 466. Which of the following transactions could provide good evidence of market value to an appraiser? And the answer is 2. A prefabricated home situated in a large subdivision of similar homes is sold after 3 months on the market. So which of the following transactions could provide good evidence of market value to an appraiser? To a prefab home situated in a large subdivision of similar homes is sold after 3 months on the market. 469, in which of the following situations is the residential method of appraisal the most suitable method to use? 469, and the answer is 4. Where the subject property possesses development potential. So if it has development potential, which we call latent value, then the residual method of appraisal is most suitable, okay? Residual, latent value, residual development potential. And then we got page 10, 480. Of the following methods, which one must be used to determine the market value of an unused vacant site? And the answer of 480 is 2, the comparative method of appraisal. So if you got an unused vacant site, then you use number 2, the comparative method of appraisal. Okay, you got that? 484. Marisa Campbell owns a 45-year-old apartment building on a street in Vancouver. All 6 suites are rented out at below market rents, and the current leases are not up for renewal for another 2 years. The apartment building is situated in a block in which all of the other apartment buildings have been torn down and replaced with other office buildings. In addition, the apartment is situated on land zoned for commercial purposes. Which of the following statements is true about the state of Marisa's investment? And the answer for 484 is 3. 3 is A and C are true. A, Marisa's apartment is ripe for redevelopment. That is true. Her apartment is ripe for redevelopment. And C, Marisa's apartment possesses latent value. Also true. Good on you, mate. 503, the market value of a vacant site can be determined by 503.2, the comparative method of appraisal. So we already look at that on question 480. So the market value of a vacant site can be determined by 2, the comparative method of appraisal. So we go to question 11, page 11, question 529. Which of the following people may require an appraisal of real property? And the answer for 529 is 4. Let's see, 4, A, B, C, and D, which means all these things. So A, the executor of an estate may require an appraisal. B, a property assessment appellant may require an appraisal. C, a mortgagee may require an appraisal. And D, an expropriation authority also may require an appraisal. Question 530. When preparing a market value analysis of a single-family residence, an appraiser may, and the answer is 4, do all of the above depending on the circumstances. Number 1, rely on the owner's information as to the type of water supply piping in the property, provided that he notes in his appraisal report the source of his information and the fact that it has not been verified. 2, ignore above average quality of construction if the buyers and sellers in the neighborhood do not consider high quality materials important. 3, disregard the recent sale of a house with the same floor plan which is within the same subdivision as the subject property. So all these things an appraiser could do depending on the situation. 532, value in exchange is what? Value in exchange is to the sale price. Value in exchange is to the sale price. 646, all other things being equal, a selling price less than the market value of a property is most likely to be obtained in a sale when, number 1, real estate prices are increasing very quickly. All other things being equal, a selling price less than the market value of a property is most likely to be obtained in a sale when, number 1, real estate prices are increasing very quickly. We go to page 12, question 649. A property which is not employed in its highest and best use. And the answer is, sorry, I'm losing my battery here. 649, the answer is 2. The answer is 2. A property that's not employed in its highest and best use. 2, possesses latent value. 656, which of the following are determinants for the value of property? And the answer is 4, B and C. B, rights of ownership, and C, physical property. Those are determinants for the value of property. Rights of ownership and physical property. The answer is 4, B and C. 725. An acquaintance of yours has approached you and wants to know why the bank, which may finance his purchase of a house, requires an appraisal. He claims that since an appraisal is not required for an investment in stocks, an appraisal should not be required for an investment in real property. Which of the following statements provides the best reasoning for your support of the bank's requirement? And 725, the answer is 3. It is difficult to find real properties that are very much alike. There's your reasoning. 3, it's difficult to find real properties that are very much alike. 732, in the context of appraisal, which one of the following properties is likely to possess latent value? And the answer is 4, none of the above. None of these have latent value. 1, a 30-acre dairy farm in the agricultural land reserve. 2, a recently constructed duplex unit in a single-family residential area of the city. And 3, a bicycle store which is built on land zoned for commercial use. All right, and we're going to page 13, question 753. Short-term national general economic factors include some of the following. And the answer for 753 is 4. Only A and B are included. A, interest rates on treasury bills. So that's short-term national general economic factor. The interest rates on treasury bills. And also the answer is B, consumer expectations. So those two things, are included on number 4. 791. An appraiser is looking for comparables to use in valuing a single-family residence. Which of the following sales could provide good evidence of market value to the appraiser? And the answer for 791 is 2. A similar house in the neighborhood sold last month, after having been listed for 2 months. So an appraiser is looking for comparables to use in valuing a single-family residence. Which of the following sales could provide good evidence of a market value to the appraiser? And the answer is 2. A similar house in the neighborhood sold last month after having been listed for 2 months. Yes. Now we go to 811. The significant characteristics of improved land are 3. Only A and B are true. A, its immobility, and B, let me see here, 811, 3. 3, only A and B are true, so its immobility and the durability of its improvements. Its immobility and the durability of its improvements. Page 14. 815. Which of the following externalities, which would represent the best, the toppest, the uttermost example of an externality which is both positive and negative? And the answer for 815 is 3. Proximity to a transportation facility. For example, near SkyTrain. It might be convenient, because that's positive, but then there may be more thieves hanging out, ready to hop on SkyTrain to escape. So that's also something worth noting. Number 3, proximity to a transportation facility. 822. When a property possesses latent value, it is implied that, number 1, the property is not currently employed in its highest and best use. 854. 2 neighbors, Ms. Finch and Mr. Falcon, each sold their homes last week. Ms. Finch sold her house for $150,000, while Mr. Falcon's house only sold for $132,000. Mr. Falcon can't understand why his house sold for less, since both homes are identical in all respects. which of the following could account for the difference in selling price? And the answer is 2. Mr. Falcon had already purchased another home and needed to sell this home immediately. All right, so maybe his jiaoji, maybe his anxious attitude made him sell things too quickly. 892, which of the following statements is true? And the answer for 892 is 4. All of the above statements are true. A, the presence of a special buyer in a sales transaction will greatly extend the range of possible bids. B, real property markets are local by nature due to the immobility of real property. So because they're local because of immobility. C, the neighborhood an appraiser should consider when doing an appraisal may not be limited to the subdivision in which the property is located. So if they want to find comparables, they don't necessarily need to look in that particular neighborhood or subdivision. And D, in BC, anyone may undertake appraisal work and charge a fee for the appraisal services. And that is true. You don't need a license. All right, and then we're going on to page 15, question 917. An acquaintance of yours is about to purchase an income-producing property and asks your opinion of the property value. You wisely recommend that she have an appraisal done. But she counters by saying, since appraisers in BC are not required to be licensed, it must be a straightforward process that could be done by anyone. Why should I pay someone for an appraisal? Which of the following could you give as a reason for hiring a professional appraiser? And number 4, all of the above provide good reasons for hiring an appraisal. So 1, 2, and 3. 1, income-producing properties have lower turnover rates. 2, the heterogeneity of property means that knowledge concerning one property cannot necessarily be applied to another property. And C, real property markets are local. Question 921. Which of the following properties would be most suitable for an appraisal by the comparative method? So what's best for the comparative method? Number 2, a 2-bedroom unit in a 4-year-old condominium. The building is a concrete high-rise and is in an area where an abundance of similar units are marketed. So that is 921. The answer is 2. Which of the following properties would be most suitable for an appraisal by the comparative method? So we have a 2-bedroom unit in a 4-year-old condo, concrete high-rise in an area where there's a lot of similar units. 937. The residual method of appraisal is the most suitable method for use where the subject property, number 4, has latent value. So you use the residual method for property with latent value. 973, Joan was considering putting in an offer on a farm in Peachland, BC for $130,000, subject to arranging suitable financing. She approaches Peachy Credit Union for pre-approval of a mortgage loan, and Peachy hired A&A appraisers to determine the value of the farm for mortgage purposes. A&A appraised the property at $135,000, and Peachy Credit Union approved a mortgage loan of $101,250 to Joan, who then went ahead with the purchase. 11 months later, the bank was forced to foreclose on the property, and upon obtaining another appraisal, found that the market value of the property was only $70,000. It is found that A&A was negligent in its appraisal report. So, 973, 3. What remedies, if any, are available to A, Joan, and B, Peachy Credit Union? And the answer is 3. Peachy Credit Union can sue A&A for breach of contract, and Joan can sue A&A under tort law. All right, so the credit union sues the appraisers for breach of contract, and Joan, who bought the property, she can sue under tort law. 981, real estate is affected by a wider and more serious range of externalities than any other commodity. What characteristic of real estate causes this? And the answer is 2, the immobility of real property. That's what makes it more easily affected by a wider and more serious range of externalities, because it's immobile. Okay? 994. Which of the following results from the immobility of land? And the answer is 2. A piece of land is zoned as parkland, thereby increasing the value of nearby homes. So if you've got a park on one piece of land and the homes of nearby of the neighbors will increase in value, just like mine.